Hey everybody, welcome to Vertical Living. I'm glad you're joining us today, and I'm very glad to have my neighbor and friend and Vertical member, Ron Kirkley. So Ron lives across the street. We get to spend a lot of fence time talking from time to time.
Yes.
So Ron, tell everybody about you, your family, and what you do for a living.
Yeah, my name's Ron Kirkley. I currently attend Vertical. Like Brian said, we've been neighbors and friends for many, many years. Family-wise, I've been married for 25 years. I have 3 kids, ages, let's see if I can get this right, 19, 17, and 9.
Nice.
It happens fast.
It does.
And beyond that, I've worked for the same company for 25 years. I work in people management, project management, with folks that I'm responsible for. And I've been blessed in that regard.
So you deal with interactions and relationships among people at work.
Yes.
Which can be challenging.
Yes.
And a lot of them, a lot of people.
More so now with distance, but yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
But in all honesty, historically, the group that I'm in has been unique for the company that I'm in because we use a distance management model. So my folks are spread out all over the country.
Okay.
And so we've had to learn even prior to this moment how to interact with one another and how to be successful in that environment.
Cool. All right. So the idea of Zoom conferences and phone calls and texts and emails, this just all natural to your job setting already.
Yep.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Well, today we're talking about how to navigate social media interaction as a follower of Jesus Christ, because it can get complicated at times, and especially in our current cultural setting where people are we're all doing what you're used to doing at work already. We're figuring out that how to have Zoom conferences and text, and then the interaction on social media, which is a whole new thing relatively in the scheme of
We're not going to talk about social media.
Time.
Are we going to talk about
Yes, we're talking about social media.
Talk about social media. Wow. All right.
You knew that, right?
No, well, I do now.
He did know that.
I did know that. I did know that.
So in the scheme of things, it's a relatively new thing. 2008, 9, 10, right in there. It appears on the scene, and depending upon how new people are to it, we're relatively new to it.
Yeah, absolutely.
In the sense of learning how to use it as an effective tool. So as a result of that, you get online, and I guess we're talking more about Facebook, maybe some Twitter, not as much Instagram. It's more on Facebook, Twitter that ideas and thoughts and news stories are shared and opinions.
Now, what tools are you on?
I am Instagram and Facebook.
Okay.
So
Same.
Okay. All right.
Same,
So I'm not as much Twitter. I've done it in the past, but not as much for me.
Yep. Same.
So as a result of that, as a believer, you get online and you have friends. You have people that you're maybe close with, maybe distant friends with, family, and people begin posting and sharing. And they're sharing hot topics and what we might even refer to as clickbait, and things that grab attention, make a statement, and then they begin to also make religious statements, political statements, ideological statements that we all of a sudden find ourselves maybe in agreement or disagreement with.
Yeah.
And that gets complicated all of a sudden.
It does.
Because maybe you didn't realize that person that you often see believes that thing or thinks this way. And because this is a relatively new interaction tool, I'll say, we haven't all learned yet how to respond in that moment, because there's something in that moment that wants to make a comment about that person and what they believe, their ideas or opinions. I guess you found that to be true for yourself.
Yeah, I think so. I think there's a certain disconnectedness that comes along with social media that runs the risk of like seeing something someone posts absent the individual and more just a statement or an idea. And so there's a temptation to believe that you need to respond to the idea absent the individual. And definitely.
Yeah. And there's also this thing about, because you see it and it showed up on your screen, there's something inside that just makes it feel like you need to say something about it. That if you don't,
right,
there's almost a negative if you don't comment.
Well, that's the irony, I think, is that in one sense, it's disconnected, right, relationally. Mm-hmm. In the other sense, it can feel very personal. Which is odd. It's disconnected relationally, but when it shows up on your feed, it can feel personal. You can feel like, oh, well, clearly I need to respond to that.
Yeah.
That's a question being posed to me. So there's sort of a tension there.
Yeah. And that I'm not even being a good Jesus follower if I let this go right on by without commenting or putting in,
I do think that's a thing, for sure.
A like or a not like with it. So with that, we can sometimes even forget all of the commandments that we're called to, even as believers, to love, to understand, to forgive, to be patient. And why do you think that is, that we forget or toss those things out the window and almost negate our one another's that we should know how to practice relationally? Why is it those things go out the window the moment we get online?
So, good news. I don't know that they completely go out the window based on my experience.
Okay.
I really do believe oftentimes, I think it's complicated.
Yeah.
I think sometimes people are posting things because they feel passionate that there's a gap in people's knowledge and they want to share. Sometimes people are posting things because they have a heart issue where they need to be heard.
Right.
Sometimes people are posting things because they're agitated with their life circumstances. They need to pick a fight. Again, I think the temptation is when it hits our feed, absent relationship, and all of this, which I'm not sure is social distancing, by the way. We're going to get grief for that. But when we,
tape measure.
We'll get a tape measure. But when those moments happen, absent those things that God has put in place, there's a real tendency to divorce all the relationship and all the realities and see it just as that, and then it can feel more personal. There's more risk that we're going to respond without those considerations.
So back before social media, I learned some very painful lessons because I would see something or someone do something that I thought they shouldn't be doing, and I thought, well, I need to write them a letter.
Really?
Yeah.
You're a letter writer.
So I would get on my computer and I would write a letter, and I'd fill it with all kind of,
You never wrote me a letter.
Well, be glad.
Okay.
These weren't good letters.
Okay, good.
These were self-righteous, judgmental letters.
Okay, well, I'm glad I didn't get one.
This is going to be horrible. But here's what I did. This is a long time ago. There was a miniature golf place in Duncanville.
Okay.
So we go there, and I'm kind of at the height of my Christian arrogance.
Okay.
And they're playing loud rock secular music.
Shameful.
And and I thought, I'm going to send them a letter. And I came home and crafted this, letter and sent it to them. And they sent one back apologizing, for their display. And later I thought, that's terrible. I can't believe I did that.
Where was this at?
It was in Duncanville.
Mini golf?
Yeah.
Did you get a free game of mini golf?
No.
Okay.
But it's one of those things, on paper, I was willing to put these things down, but I had no clue who that person was I sent it to. I don't have there was no flesh and blood factor to it. So I almost felt it was safer, I thought, to say these rude things really to them because it was impersonal. So I think that lends to what you're saying. Sometimes the screen can give us this impersonal dimension, and we feel more free to say things that we would never say to that person face to face if we were sitting next to them like this. There's less ownership and accountability, and
and I'm not sure. Like I tend to want to give people the benefit of the doubt, so I tend to think, maybe it's less a factor. Like maybe it's less that they wouldn't say it to me. It's just that it can create a potentially problematic situation in that environment absent the relationship. You know what I mean?
That's true. That's true.
I don't think it's necessarily that folks are out there maybe they are, I mean, but maybe they're posting things. It's not necessarily they're posting things that they wouldn't say, but maybe it's things that normally I would hear within the context of relationship, and then I would filter and understand them completely differently.
Yeah. So, I mean, I've wrestled over time with social media. There's been times I've gotten online conversations and debates and arguments and try to prove my point. And we're going to talk more about that in a couple of episodes. But bottom line, I've never had anybody at the end of an online conversation say, "You're right. Wow, thank you so much. You've really set me free."
Yes.
It doesn't happen in that format. So I've really searched for metaphors over the time to help me gauge, all right, well, what is this social media format here? How do I interact? It's an interactive element. It has some relational content to
especially in this moment, right? Where we have less of the other, and we're trying to bridge that gap using these tools.
Exactly. Yeah. So I've got to find some way to understand, well, what do I do then? Can I or should I let a post go by where someone that I know says something I, strongly disagree with? Isn't it my duty to correct them in that moment, to make a point? And do I just keep posting everything that I believe and keep making political jabs and religious jabs at people? Shouldn't I? Is that what I'm supposed to do in this interactive element, or is there a different way to navigate that? So for me, one of the things I guess where I'm landing right now is I've tried to think of social media kind of like my street in front of my house. My street has people that live up and down it. I know some of them. I know some of them better than others. They have different beliefs, different lifestyles, different practices, different arrangements in their homes. And I try to respect them for who they are. If they live on my street, I want to be kind to them. But I've tried to equate that with, Jesus saying that the second greatest commandment is to love your neighbor as yourself.
Yes.
So if we can make that metaphor jump over into online interaction, I think it might give us a better format and way to relate. It helps me navigate at least. So if I have a neighbor in my neighborhood that I might be different from politically or even lifestyle, I would not ever go to their house, knock on their door, and then tell them all the reasons they're wrong. I wouldn't do that. I hope no one would come do that for me either in our neighborhood. So I give them some respect, and I hope they give me that same respect in our neighborhood. The street metaphor helps me do that. So when I'm navigating through social media, I try not to think in terms of, hey, I'm going to go tell them all the reasons they're wrong. I'm going to, point out their weaknesses and point out the flaw in their argument. And I kind of liken it to putting a sign out front. Somebody wants to say, my child goes to this high school, or I support this organization, or I just had my roof replaced by this company, or I go to this church, or I believe in this political party, I support this political person. Everyone's free to do that.
Yeah.
But we would never, hopefully, not ever go into someone else's yard and
put another sign in their yard, or paint a big heart on their
or paint a big, X across theirs or whatever, Yeah,
a couple of things too that I would add just real quick. One, I have a boss who was very good to teach me very early in my career. With anything that is going to likely include any kind of conflict, before you put anything in email, before you send an IM, an instant message, before you do any of that, pick up the phone. Even in the workplace, we recognize that there are incredible risks trying to work that kind of thing out, absent relationship.
That's true.
That would be the first thing. The second thing is I was having a conversation with a family member very recently who was frustrated with something that had been posted and who was considering posting something. And interestingly enough, what I told him is I said, if you care enough about this issue and you care enough about that person, pick up the phone.
Yeah.
Go have that conversation with them. Yeah. And if you don't feel like you have that relationship yet, work on that relationship to open up that opportunity. Yeah. Yeah. But again, it just, going back to your example, clearly we learn about each other on social media. It doesn't necessarily, much more the street.
Yeah.
than the relationship. I think that makes a lot of sense, that metaphor does.
Yeah. Well, and it ties in what you're just saying there to a statement I use often that's been used in teaching and business. People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care.
Yeah, that's good.
So it kind of fits
true.
that same structure. Your post or your anti-post or your gotcha moment that you want to make really has little impact on someone else if there's no relationship and if it's in a format that's void of the relationship.
Yeah, say that again. I hadn't heard that before.
People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care.
All right, I'm going to borrow that soon.
All right, good. All right, that's good. So I think, this gives us a platform for beginning to navigate social media interaction. As a Christian, we want to do what Jesus said, love your neighbor as yourself.
Yeah, absolutely.
So if I think about the people I'm friends with on the street called Facebook or Twitter, then I should interact with them as Jesus would have me to. And as the New Testament, Paul would write and say in Ephesians 4, walk worthy of the calling with which you were called. And we could change that and say, post worthy of the calling with which you're called.
Yeah.
Let every post, let every like, let every comment be worthy of what it means to be a Jesus follower who seeks to love his neighbor as himself. So
yeah, because if it's not, then we run the opposite risk, right? And ultimately, bigger than any of these issues that are getting posted is the issue of unity in Christ, and love, and all the things that the gospel points us to.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, I agree.
Well, thank you, Ron.
Absolutely.
For joining.
This was fun.
And we will. We hope you'll join us for our next episode of Vertical Living. We'll keep talking more about how to navigate social media interaction as a Jesus follower.